incorporating and integrating the research into reality is what smart is where smart differs from every other research center. So in smart, we bridge between the research, we do the research, we are good at the research, we have experts as research, and then after the research, it's not only about just doing research and just like dumping it. We bring the research into to reality. So I welcome every one of us here who are lucky to be here to this weekly webinar. So for today, we are doing something different and we are advancing to hear and learn more from experts on the field. We don't just bring anybody here, we bring experts, people who are experienced, people who knows the difference between the research and the reality, and who has been in the research, who has been into research and also tried it in reality. So um I'm happy to welcome our honorable professor here, since I'm the one lucky to moderate when the professor is here. So his topic for today is concerning energy transition in Africa, the opportunity and challenges. So the energy transition, we know here, uh, the energy transition in Africa. So we are trying to look at the challenges and opportunities, because for every advancement, there will be opportunities and challenges. So we are not just looking at the good side alone. We are looking at, okay, what are the possible challenges with this energy transition that we are integrating in Africa? Because in a country whereby 85 to 90 million of its citizens can't even afford a power, which is the largest, the highest in the world. Nigeria here, we have the largest number of people who are not living with power. We are not living with energy. Who don't have even the average people that are even that has who has let me say, who is opportuned to have electricity is not that is not of it's not even advanced, or it's actually not what they want. So we have almost 80 to 90 million people who don't have opportunity to that, and even the national grid only uh only serve up to like 59% of the people. So renewable energy and this energy transition is a necessity in Africa and in Nigeria. So it's not just a thing that, okay, it's not just a want, it is a necessity. And now smart is connecting that uh that does, and it is filling that void for us. So yeah, I'm opportuned to introduce to us Professor Sam Adaramola, who happens to be to come from uh, Norwegian University of Life Sciences, Norway, and Makerere University Business School, Uganda. So who is our honorable professor here? Is a great one at it, and so our honorable professor Muyiwa Sam Adaramola, he holds BSc and MSc degree in mechanical engineering from Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria, and University of Ibadan, Nigeria, respectively. Furthermore, he holds a PhD in environmental engineering from the University of Saskatchewan, sorry, from the University of Saskatchewan, Canada. Yeah, so he's a professor in renewable energy at the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, Norway, and professor of energy systems at Makerere University Business School, Uganda. In addition, he's currently serving as a visiting professor, which is part-time at Wame Kroma University of Science and Technology, Ghana, and a visiting professor, international visiting scholar at it at Covenant University, Nigeria. So his research interests cover a wide range of topics from renewable energy resources assessment and technologies to socio-economics and environmental impact of energy systems. He has edited 4 scientific books, 8 book chapters, and authored co-authored over 170 peer-reviewed journal articles with over 9,700 citations and an H index of 52 in Google Scholar and over 6,290 citations and an H index of 43 on Scopus. He has graduated many masters and PhD students in many universities and serves as an external examiner at many universities. His teaching and research activities span across universities in Canada, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Norway, and Uganda. This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. So you can see that we did not just bring someone that who has just read books and does not have experience. We are bringing someone that has experienced most part of Africa and know where they are lagging and the opportunities and challenges we have. So I'm very happy to welcome his honorable professor here. We are so glad to have you and look forward to learn so much from you. So the topic of his discussion is energy transition in Africa, the opportunity and challenges. So we are looking at both sides. What are the opportunities and what are the challenges? I don't know if Prof can hear me.
Yes, thank you very much. I can hear you.
Yeah. We welcome you to Smart Sustainable Mobility with Africa Resources and Technologies. We are glad to have you, sir.
So thank you very much for your kind introduction and for your pre-presentation lecture too. It's nice to hear from you and also to be part of this community. So like you said, my presentation is focused on energy transition, looking at Africa, what are the opportunities and that we have and some of the challenges that we are facing. As you mentioned in your introduction, and I also check that today, when you look at Africa in terms of electricity generation, we are talking about countries like Egypt, South Africa that have over 58 or 58, 59,000 megawatts. Then we have, which are ranked number 1, number 2. Nigeria, surprisingly, Nigeria is ranked number 5 in terms of capacity with ability to generate. Underline the word ability to generate 14,000 megawatts, but we only have the ability to distribute roughly around 6,000. Even though we have this power installation lie down somewhere within the country, they are just redundant. They are not useful because we focus more on generation when we are forgetting that we need to transmit this energy that we are generating to different parts of the country. So that is a big challenge for us. But just to comment on your preamble. So yeah, like you said, that is my name. I work at Norwegian University of Life Sciences and also Makerere University of Business School. And sometimes people ask me, what are you doing in business school if you're an engineer? But we are forgetting that when we are solving energy problem, it's a joint effort with by all discipline. It doesn't have to be an engineer. Even when you are an engineer, you are solving the problem and you don't have the other side of the coins, then become more challenging for you. So my presentation will be brief. I was told I have up to 40 minutes to make presentations. I will try to be within that range of time. So before we start, what is energy transition? What does it really mean? And why do we need to transit? My brother that introduced me already talked about a little bit. But, depending on how you look at it, I will present the energy transition in two ways, historical background and, and the current concept of our energy transition. So this is a kind of one of my students in Uganda did a couple of years ago. We tried to look at what are the drivers of household energy transition to clean fuel. And then we did some review, and the paper was published in 2023. And a different way and different authors look at energy transition in different formats. But for now, you could see, I will start from number 2, where you look at, you transfer energy shift or change in fuel you use from one form to another form, and even the associated technologies. And these are not something new. Most of us, when we are growing up, maybe we are using charcoal, we are using firewood for cooking. Along the way, we transit to kerosene because kerosene is better in handling, is cleaner than charcoal or firewood. Then along the way, some of us that have the opportunity, you buy gas. No, I don't want to use kerosene. It's smelling. Then we buy gas. So that we are still transiting. Then eventually some people say, well, I need electricity. I just want to press the button and cook my food. That is part of the transition. And if you also go back to our lighting system, it's the same. In those days, we are using those lighter with kerosene inside. Even sometimes some people might use palm oil as fuel to light the light. Eventually some move to candle to light the light. Then from candle, now we are using lights, electricity light in our bulbs in our home. So when we talk about energy transition, it's not really completely new, as you will see later. So we are shifting from one form of energy resources or another technology to another case. And then about the last one, it's a significant change in set of pattern of energy use. So that is also another way some people look at energy transition. But you could see sometimes too, in the global context, we are talking of energy transition from fossil fuel to clean energy. That is what we have today. But just to let you know that it's not only about transition from unclean to clean, even from resources to another resources is also part of energy transition. So, but then the question you ask yourself, why do we need to transit? As I mentioned to you, starting from our local way of cooking food in those days, availability of alternative energy resources is one of the primary drivers for energy transition. I mean, people will tell you today we are transiting because of global climate change. Yeah, it might be true, but because there's alternative source. If there's no alternatives, then we are not transiting anywhere. Then we also transiting because the technology is there. There's improvement in technology. Today, some of us that was born in the last 10 years or 20 years, where we are talking about electric vehicle, we thought electric vehicle is something new. No, electric vehicle has been there for over 100 years. The reason being that the technology for the battery to travel long distance wasn't there, but now there's an improvement in the technology. Even oil and gas have been there 2, 3 or 400 years or million years ago. But unfortunately, there was no technology to extract them. That was why we were using charcoal and all those things those days. So the technology could be something. So you might have the resources, alternative resources, different type of resources, but the technology will help you. So when you have the technology, then you also know that having the resources is not enough. Having the technology is not enough. We also need money. So now in most countries now they are supporting different energy drives with financial support. So I remember, a couple of years ago, you want to buy electric vehicles, you don't pay VAT, you are given a lot of benefits. So overall, you might actually buy your electric vehicle at 50% of the market price. So when you are parking, you get free parking. When you drive, you don't pay toll gates. So overall, it's more essential because the money put there by government through the policy. Then we also talking about energy transition today because of national or regional energy supply security. Most of us, witnessed what happened few months ago when U.S., Israel, and Iran were fighting, and we know a lot of regions where they have issue with energy supply, and then the price of crude oil jump up, which is beneficial to countries like Nigeria that depend on income from oil and gas. But for other countries that depend on energy resources for their daily life, even to power their economy is a problem for them. And for importing countries, the price is also disorganized their energy services and the rest of the economy. So when you talk about energy security, then you must say, okay, what if we don't depend on oil and gas? What if we can generate all our electricity from hydro, for example, where we don't care about what is happening on the global stage? What if everybody today in Nigeria is using electric vehicles and they were able to have electricity? Nobody care about the price of fuel, either it is 1,000 plus or 300 or 800. Nobody care. But because there's no alternative, that is why we care. And that alternatives can drive us. And then if later we talk about if you have solar PV on your roof, whereby you can actually charge your vehicle directly without depending on national grid, which is not reliable in Nigeria too, then you can be also energy dependent. So this is also one of the reasons why energy transition can create energy source, because you want to be energy independent. You don't want to expose your country to any external forces. And one thing you should know, which we all know, is that energy is life. If we take away energy today from our life, from our system, then we are in trouble. I am talking to you now because my system is powered by energy, by electricity. And you are listening to me because you are connected to electricity, or your laptop or your computer is charged with electricity. So that's to show that energy is a very powerful thing. And that's why there's a lot of politics globally because of this energy issue. So then another thing we also notice that exposure and information is also increasing these days. There are a lot of opportunities that are available in different energy sources that probably we don't really take care or look at previously. And then another, which is global driving now, is greenhouse gas emission and climate change. That's where people are saying, hey, now we need to transit. But if Nigeria transits, and Ghana refused to transit, or China refused to transit, or US refused to transit, it doesn't make any impact on climate change, because one country cannot solve the problem. Everybody have to solve the problem. And that is also one of the major issues of energy transition, because everybody look after themselves. No, I mean, Nigeria today, we should look after ourselves. US will tell you they are looking after themselves in terms of energy. Nobody really care globally. Even though we talk about climate change, we talk about greenhouse gas emission, but every country is looking for opportunities to make sure that the livelihood of their people are actually better. So these are reasons where we are talking about energy transition now. And any other factor could be listed, but this is not a classroom, but you can also think about other factors that are included. So now, if you look at climate change, which is, like I said, the driving of the current energy drive, it has a lot of implication. This study was taken from online. You could see the citation is talking about reduced vulnerability to adverse impact of climate change in Niger Delta region of Nigeria. You can read the materials later, but you will see different cases. The cost of adapting the coastal area because of Niger Delta area is expensive. You are losing a lot of work days. In Europe recently, people are complaining heat waves. You cannot work. The inside is very hot. The outside is very hot. Even in Nigeria today, we're also complaining, though we might say, well, we are used to the weather. Nobody is used to bad weather, but because we are trying to adapt, we are trying to manage, so we are not used to that. Now, if you are very rich and you have your air conditioning, and provided the electricity is available to power your air conditioner, then you pay a lot of money to cool your temperature down, to maintain your room that's supposed to be between 20 to 24 or 25 degrees Celsius for you to be more comfortable. So it requires you spend a lot of money. So there are other reasons where you could see a lot of challenges that can face that we are facing as a result of climate change. Again, you can read more about this later because of time. And like I said, energy transition is really not new. You know, if you look at this graph that I'm showing, in 1800 or pre-1800 up to around 1850, almost everywhere in the world, we depend on fuel, charcoal. We depend on charcoal. We don't have the firewood because that was what is available. And that's actually what defrost most of our natural forest resources. It's not what is happening today. People will say because we are using charcoal in Nigeria, that is why we are creating problem. No, because in those days, Britain and the colonial masters, they were more concerned about these wood resources because that's what they knew there. The technology was not available to use any other. So we focus more on this firewood and the charcoal. And as oil was discovered in US, they said, oh, fine, oh, that's alternative. So then the crude oil came. Then along the way, you have the coal. Then gradually towards around, you could see by 1960, again, you see when in 1960, when people start talking about renewable, you see it's not because of global climate change. It was because of the crisis in the Middle East when there was a fight between Israel and the Arab. And because the West support Israel, and then the Arab put embargo on importation, on exportation of oil and gas, and that created problem for the West. So then they decided, oh, we need to. So when when Europe is telling us today that, hey, climate change, we need to run away from fossil fuel. No, we are not. They are running away, not because of the climate effect. They are running away because the resources are not really available in those countries. Go to US today, they have a lot of oil and gas resources. They are exploring it, they are not running away. You can read about Australia, you can read about China. They are also expanding, but they are still using this fossil fuel as their base energy. So what I'm saying is that when we talk about energy resources, energy transition is not something new. It is something that has been there for many, many centuries because the resources is there, because the alternatives are there, because the technology is coming, because there's a financial money to build the technology and to explore those resources. That is why we are seeing the difference. And at an household level, you also see the difference. As you are getting richer, you see yourself moving. Not because those things were not available. We have a electric cooker in Nigeria many, many years ago, but most people cannot afford it. Now people are affording it now. They have the resources now, they can buy it. So it's not because it wasn't there, because those things are not there that were listed. So now that people are getting better, then the difference is also common. Actually, information too is also one of those things that also help. But now, if you look at global energy supply, I'm using data from 2025, which look at energy consumption in 2024. This particular site already recently, I think last week, published the data for 2025, but I have not been able to use that. But when you look at this graph globally, which part of the world actually consuming energy, electricity, or energy in general now? You could see from my figure about 47% of energy we consume in 2024 were from by the Pacific Asia. They dominate. And when you zoom down, you see China consume about 26.8, more than 1/4 of electricity or energy we consume globally. So meaning that if you have 4 oranges, China take 1, the rest of the world take the other 3. That is how big. And you can't blame them too because China produce good globally. Currently, they are producing almost of 50% of manufacturing good globally. So meaning that they have, it's not about the population, and it's also because of the industrial base that are already expanded. Then you see North America for about 18.9, then Europe about 12. But if you go back, you see in Africa that we have about how many? We have about 52 countries with over 1 billion population, and we only have 3.6 of global. And China, even India with 1.4 is also about 6.5. So whatever we are using in Africa, a country like India is also double it. Can you imagine that? When you look at Indonesia, which has a population of a little bit more than Nigeria, is using 1.9, which is almost half of the whole Africa. So let you know that there are a lot of opportunity for us to use energy in Africa. So that is the consumption. And then when you also look at it, you break this energy consumption into different level, you could see that fossil fuel, we are talking about 2024 now. After many years of money being spent, noise being made of energy transition, we are still depending on fossil fuel. So 87% roughly of energy we consume in 2024 were derived from fossil fuel resources. Can you imagine? And the rest of them accounted for around 13%. So meaning that we still have a long way to go, even though we are moving, but we still have a long way to go if we want to really transit. But now, what are the challenges of actually depending on this fossil fuel? And one of the things that we mentioned because initially was this energy production or consumption from fossil produces, greenhouse emissions, so which is also not good. So meaning that we need to find a way to adapt to the climate change as a result, or we also have to find a way to mitigate the climate change. Then we also know fossil fuel, depend on global market. It's something that you cannot predict, especially crude oil and gas. It's something beyond anybody's control. Either you like it or not, when there was a crisis in Middle East in February, March, April, the fuel electricity in Nigeria goes up. Nigeria is not fighting there. We are not contributing any forces there. But because of the global link, because oil and gas is a global commodity. So as a result, it affects whatever. If there's any crisis today in Nigeria, it will affect the global market. So it's so sensitive, it's so unpredictable. So then the question is, why do we have to depend on this kind of resources? That also means that we need to find alternative source. That is where renewable energy resources also comes in. So now in the concept of current energy transition that we are talking about now, so we are saying energy transition is a shift from consumption of high green gas emission produced energy resources to very low or zero emission resources such as renewable energy, or transformation of energy production, distribution, and consumption to reduce their environmental impact. That is the idea. But you also remember that this energy transition is very dynamic. The definition is dynamic. Even people that are implementing them, they are also done, especially the Western world, whereby they have the resource, they have the financial control, so they can manipulate it. So that is just to let you know, in the current concept, we are talking about moving from fossil fuel to clean energy. Not because the water resources are not available, but now we are focusing on climate change. But again, if you go back to individual country, they are still doing things in a different way. So if they say, oh, don't do it, but you could see they are still doing the same thing. So that is actually, you have to be careful that you need to understand the story of energy transition. It's not just that will be driven by this climate change everybody is running. Because like China said sometimes ago, the climate change that we are talking about is not caused by China. It was caused by Britain, number one, and Europe, number two. And that's why China is always complaining. We can't stop developing our country until when we get a level where you say, hey, now we are contributed. Our country has not developed for more than 200 years. And you say we should not develop because of what? No, we are going to use resources that we have. If we have coal, we are going to use it because you guys have used coal and you have developed your infrastructure. You have developed your country. You have developed everything. So now we cannot use it. That is not allowed. And that is the argument of China that yes, we are good, we know. But again, when you also look like China, they are leading country in terms of solar hydro, the biggest hydro in the world is China. They have the highest in solar, in wind. So they are developing, but they are using all available resources, not just discard one in favor of another one. So that's something you need to understand, that the concept that we are looking at now, but the energy transition is broader than the current concept. Another issue that we talk about when we are talking about energy transition, which is a key part now, that recently we say, okay, we need energy transition, we need to transit from fossil to renewable and to nuclear also, if possible. But can this energy transition be sustainable? And if the answer is yes, if you depend on wind and solar, okay, fine, it can be sustainable. But we also know that you cannot depend on solar and wind or runoff river forever. In the night, we need energy. The sun is not there in the night. The wind can refuse to flow. And the water, runoff river is more favorable during the rainy season. During the dry season, the water flow, the availability of water is limited. So which means we cannot really develop. We cannot really completely depend on this renewable energy. So we need to find alternative solutions, or we need to find support. That's where the issue of batteries come in. Then batteries too, some of you, if you are in chemistry and environmental engineering, they will also tell you, yeah, battery is good, but then you also have its own environmental impact. So to let you know that there's no energy resources that is completely perfect. Then we also say, in addition to sustainable energy transition, is this energy transition really just? Or we are just making noise about it? Just energy means that everybody should be treated equal on this energy transition. Now you see today, I will show you a map of Africa with some critical minerals later. And Africa comes have mineral resources. But then, are we really benefiting from these mineral resources? The answer is no. Look at Niger. Niger have nuclear resources. But again, how many nuclear power do they have? They are one of the poorer countries in terms of energy, electricity consumption, or even development. And yet, country like France that doesn't really have anything on nuclear is generating close to 70% of electricity from nuclear energy. Where did they get the resources? From Africa, from other rest of the world. Then can we say it's just when you are taking these resources from a community and the community is, destroyed, just like in our Niger Delta area, destroyed, maybe one day when the oil and gas is finished, everybody carry their resources and the whole community become useless. So that is what when we are talking about this energy transition, you need to carry everybody along. It's not that somebody in Norway will be, driving an electric vehicle, having beautiful life, everything, but somebody in Nigeria or Congo Republic will be facing challenges. It will not be just. So that is one of the real issues. And that is a big problem that even globally they have been discussing about it. Is it really possible to achieve a just and sustainable global energy transition? The answer is, to my hand, I will say no. So let's look at the landscape of, now we have looked at energy transition, at least now you can understand the wide range of energy transition, the way we define it, how we look at it. But now let's look at how is energy landscape look like in Africa. My friend also talked about our energy consumption rate is very low in its introduction. But again, maybe this information needs to be updated now. If my brother is about 800 to 900 million people lack access to electricity, mean that we are still far, far behind. Then we also know we depend on biomass. Most of us, even those of us in Unilag or in Lagos and Abuja, probably you might depend on less on biomass, but on average, a lot of people still use biomass for energy cases. It's a country like Uganda, almost 89%, 89, yeah. No, let's say around 90, let me say around 90% of the population still depend on charcoal and firewood for cooking. So it means there's a lot of way we go. And then energy consumption profile is very dominated by residential because our industrial base is very poor. I mean, that is why today we are complaining about lack of employment because there is no job. Then the question will somebody will say, how can you create businesses when you don't have stable electricity? To create a business without stable electricity is completely, it's not possible because you have to spend a lot of money. Either you have to buy generators, diesel, gasoline, or you have to go and buy solar PV and battery backup, and that costs money. So the guy that's supposed to employ 20 people will hand on employ 2 or 3 or 4 people. So the rest of the population will be there. And then the people, the smart people that have the idea, they want to establish business, but they don't have the ability because the electricity is not there, or when it's available, it's expensive. So that is why our energy provider is dominated by, at residential level, which is not that so good. Though our transport sector, we use more of gasoline, and we have a lot of that in Nigeria. But industry is a real challenge. Unless we develop the industrial base with energy, cheap energy to help them. And that is what they are doing now in Ethiopia. Ethiopia has one of the cheap electricity in Africa. A lot of companies. I mean, you will know Dangote is one of the people that is investing in Ethiopia because they have. Recently, they commissioned 5,000 megawatts of hydropower, which they finance by themselves, not by any loan, because of the problem with Sudan and Egypt on the ownership of River Nile. No country, IMF refused to give them money. World Bank refused to give them money. They build themselves locally. Every civil servant contributed and they built this hydropower. 5,000, which is now, I talk about 6,000 electricity that is available in Nigeria today. One hydropower in Ethiopia alone is almost supplying all the electricity we are supplying in Nigeria. And sometimes, some of them, when we are talking about Ethiopia, we look at them as, Nigeria is at the top. Yeah, we are at the top, but when you move around Africa, you know that we are only at the top by name. A lot of countries are doing far better than us. And that is, we see a lot of Nigeria also moving around this day because everybody is looking for better life outside Nigeria. Then we also have a real energy potential, which I will talk about very soon. And then we also, a country like Nigeria, Algeria, Libya, and some emerging countries like Uganda, Ghana, they have discovered oil and gas. So now they also see as source of income and alternative energy for their use. So that's also give us idea how the landscape look at. But then if you look at global, I'm using 2024 information again. If you also look at this for Nigeria, for Africa, energy consumption per capita, in gigajoule in 2024, Africa have the least. When country like somebody in Europe is used almost how many times? If you multiply this about 8 times per capita. So I can tell you how much of electricity I use in my home in a day, even now that we're in summertime. It's more than what some people use in a month in Nigeria because everything will depend on electricity for everything. If we don't have electricity, we're in trouble. And statistically, electricity in Norway is off just around 56 or 57 minutes in a year. 57, just 1 hour, less than 1 hour in a year. And that 1 hour is not just like electricity disappear complete for 1 hour. It's just few seconds today, 2 seconds tomorrow that you might not really notice. A blink and the light back. So when you compare that kind of country with Nigeria, then you know there's a lot of difference. Even when you are sweating, there's no water. You have your appliances, you cannot run them. You have fridge, you cannot use it. You can't buy food and stuff because there's no electricity. You are not sure if there's electricity will be available. So you could see globally, per capita, we consume the lowest. And I'm sure if we remove South Africa, you remove the North Africa country, this number will be almost 10 to 0 for the rest of Africa. Because those countries, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, at least they have more energy capacity than us. In fact, most of them in the North Africa, almost 100% electricity access. So if you remove that, then you know that this consumption we are talking about is something not that good. So again, when you also look at this, majority, our energy, electricity production today is dependent on fossil fuel. You could see from this figure. And again, you could see from this figure, again, that you will see this number, our consumption is almost 0.2%, and that's about 20% of global average. That is our energy consumption, which is completely terrible. And then we have our energy consumption, electricity depend on fossil fuel, and then we only have 27% of our electricity from clean. And in terms of emission, we are far behind too, because we don't even use more electricity, so we have low emission. And that is also an argument. If a continent that have produced less emission than the rest of the world, then why are we putting pressure on us not to develop our other energy resources? I'm not saying we should be polluting, but then if pollution will help us to grow, why can't we do it? So briefly, in the next few slides, I will briefly talk about energy resources. We have solar, which we know there are different applications of solar. I won't spend time on that. We can use solar to generate electricity. We can use it as for water heating system, which can be used for different in different company of different applications. I can say that my time is going very fast. We have available wind energy resources, which are also available globally too. We have some in Nigeria, probably not as big as some other part of the world, but at least we still have sufficient that we can use either for water pumping system or for electricity generation. In terms of hydro, we are not. I mean, hydro is one of the worst energy resources that we don't utilize in Africa. Look at what we have as potential. Look at what we are developing. Very tiny of what we have. Congo Republic is one of the largest hydropower base in this world. But unfortunately, because of crisis, because of war, because of everything, they are completely, undeveloped. And when you compare with countries like Europe, which already use almost 70% of their potential, we are far, far behind. Then, in terms of geothermal energy resources, in Nigeria today, we still have some of those areas in Nigeria, hot spring, whereby you can use it for different applications. So there are different categories for electricity generation, for space heating, for industrial application, for agricultural process. Country like Kenya is generating over 800 megawatt of electricity from geothermal. And then potential, we have a lot. In Nigeria, I've seen some of the material, we have potential, but we are not actually using this potential. So there are different applications. It's not only for electricity, but for different purposes that we can actually use them. But again, this resources is completely underutilized. Then in terms of uranium, if you look at this map, you could see some of the map, you see them here. These are countries in Africa that have the resources. But again, for political reasons, geopolitical issues, we cannot even use this. We cannot even extract these resources. So most developed will become, and you look at the map of Europe, you see there's nothing. Nothing like, apart from Ukraine. The rest of them depend on this other country, like I mentioned to you, a country like like France, have more than half of the electricity from nuclear energy, but yet they don't have resources. So they got it from other parts of the world, like some of these countries that are listed here. Though we are also trying recently, South Africa is the only country in Africa up to now that's actually operating nuclear power. Egypt is planning to operate in 2028. Countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Morocco, Kenya, and they're also planning in future. And the good thing about nuclear, you don't really have to have the nuclear to use it. You can buy it from other sources. Time is, again, nuclear is not only about energy, you can use it for different applications in medicine and other areas that you can use nuclear energy. Then, well, quickly on the energy resources again, we talk about this critical raw material, which everybody is talking about. You want to build your energy, your battery system, you depend on this particular this critical material. You see the map of Africa, they are all there. And yet, most of these minerals are just being extracted and taken away, and then they expect us to buy again. So the resources, our strength is actually in our resources, but which we are underutilized. Even when you look at your common laptop, you see a lot of, look at it, it's an array of critical minerals, critical metals. Every component you have, if you don't have this, then you are in process. In a way, in Africa, we have the resources, but for different reasons, political reasons, financial reasons, even selfishness of our leaders also making it impossible for us to develop. So benefit quickly of this renewable energy, economic development and job creation, access to energy and rural development is something that is necessary. Increased power generation means now currently we depend in Nigeria today, we still depend more. Most of our energies are generated from gas, oil and gas, but yet we stay far behind. We also need to diversify our source of income. We don't have to rely on oil and gas alone. What's about other resources? Now, Ethiopia, like I mentioned to you, generating about 10,000 megawatts. They are generating more than what they need, and they are selling it to other countries, and they are making money. Even now, the way they are making money, that's hydropower they constructed with their money. Within 5 to 10 years, they are going to make all the money back by selling electricity to neighboring country to show that this is a good business. Then we could also look at this renewable energy. I mean, this is where we could also talk about a small scale smart, where you actually look at community energy base. When we are talking about community, you can look at Unilag as a community. Can Unilag generate its electricity? If you go to Covenant University today, Covenant generates electricity inside the campus. So can we also generate? So if you produce excess, you produce excess, you can sell it to national grid and you make some money with the proper arrangement. So this renewable energy could also be something that we could consider. Covenant use gas turbine, but we can use the other side instead of what Covenant is using. Well, quickly, what are the barriers? Infrastructure issue is one problem. Now, if you want to develop large-scale solar PV system in Nigeria today, you have a challenge because our existing national grid transmission system are not built to take care of these systems because we don't plan for it. I know that the technology is not there, but probably we are not interested. Let me put it that way. Maybe politically, because a lot of our people, either the business people or the politicians, they have invested in generator business that they don't want that business to collapse. Instead of looking at it at a larger scale, they look at it as personal interest. We also know that renewable energy could also be it could be costly. Now, if we have to develop our infrastructure to the extent to accommodate renewable energy, we need to invest. But are we ready to invest? Limited access to finance. You want to go to bank. Let's say Unilag today say, well, Unilag want to generate electricity from renewable energy. Federal government will not give Unilag the money. The state might not give Unilag the money. The bank will say, sorry, we are not going to give you the money. So there are a lot of reasons too. And they can also give, international investors will say, well, we are not sure, maybe the country is not stable. The risk is there. And if when they give you money, they increase your interest to some level that it become crisis for you. The regulatory issues and policy uncertainties. Even when we have the law, we don't really implement it in most African countries. Where other reasons could be insecurity and political stability, like I said, which can create problem for investors and say, hey, we are running away. Lack of information about the use of renewable energy, skill capacity is limited, insufficient investment in research and development, and over dependency on fossil fuel could also be a problem as a barrier. And then when we talk about this challenge to replacing fossil fuel, we are fear of stranded fossil fuel resources and assets. Most renewable are variables or not dispatchable, which means you cannot use them when they are not available. So these are some of the reasons I want to stop now so that we can have time for questions quickly. But so when we are talking about also energy transition, the way we communicate energy transition sometimes make people think that it's not necessary. But it's not only about climate change. It's about our health. Imagine a woman, children, a man cooking using charcoal. Look at the implication. You sick, you go to hospital, you spend money instead of buying gas or instead of buying electricity or pay for electricity if it's available or go and buy cooker. You are using charcoal. Oh, I don't have the money, but you have the money when your child is sick. You have the money when your wife is sick. You have the money when you yourself are sick. And you spend all that money just because somebody breathed in carbon dioxide when they are cooking food. So we talk about food security. We also, I think my time is almost off. So remark, well, we need to set a vision, or this energy policy, energy transition, but this is not only setting the ambition, it's not, that goals have to be achievable. Now today you can go and read, Nigeria have a national document on, not only Nigeria, Africa, every country have document, but what are the process? It's like you wake up, it's okay, in 2 years time, I want to buy a branding car of any kind. And every day you go back to bed. You are not making money. And when you are making money, you are not saving. You are just spending the money as if by miracle something will happen in 2 years' time and the vehicle will come. So that is when we plan our document. We have the document, we have those numbers. Nigeria will tell you today by 2030 we should have about 30,000 megawatts. Even when we cannot even transmit 14 megawatts. How can we transmit 40? Because the goals are there, they are not there to be implemented. They are just there because somebody asked for a number and we put the number there. So we also need to build the capacity instead of developing on foreigners to solve the problem, we have to solve it ourselves. We also have to find an innovative way of financing mechanism. Like I said, Ethiopia is a country built locally sought money, not from one bank, not from IF, locally, and they built 5,000 megawatts of hydropower. So we can also promote decentralized solution for remote and rural, even for big cities, even community like the concept of community energy development. You could also, like I said, Unilag can decide today in so year, we want 50% of our electricity to be from solar. In my university, which is located in the north, we have around 240 kilowatts of solar PV. And Norway is targeting in 2030 10,000 megawatts of solar PV. And if you look at map of Norway, we only have good sun in 3 months or 4 months in a year. And they are targeting 10,000 megawatts. And yet Nigeria that we have abandoned, what do we do with it? So we also need to create a policy that will encourage policy like pay net metering. So if I produce, I can sell to the grid, I can get some money back. So and that has to also be transparent. So we could also promote regional integration. We still have that, but I don't know how effective it is. I know Nigeria still sell electricity to the Niger. We still sell electricity to Benin in those days. So, but then do we buy from there? Do we pool all our resources together? So when we have excess, we supply, but again, this has to go back to infrastructure that is not really there. So to conclude, we could see energy trade not really as a challenge, but we could see as an opportunity to actually develop our energy system in a way that will make the population to have access to clean, reliable, and affordable energy. I think this is where we stop for now. Thank you very much. I hope I've not spent all your time. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. We are really happy. I'm very happy with what you just fed us because it's actually a great one, and it arose the curiosity part of me, the curious part of me, because it's actually sad that we have all this, and average Nigeria is still suffering from lack of energy. It's actually a sad thing, and you really touched a good part of it. You made us to understand that this energy transition is not just what we are trying to do now. It has been in existence for hundreds of years, even let's say thousands of years ago, and people have been trying to do this, and they have been advancing. There have been advancements from every region of every region of the world, and in Africa, it is just sad that we are behind. So while you were talking, it came to my mind that we are just saying we are in 2026 in Africa. We should just say we are still in maybe 1950. So let that give us hope that okay, other countries are in 2026 and we are in 1950. Maybe by that we can work towards things that are necessary. So because energy, as you said, is not something we can live without. It is something, it is a necessity. Even energy outbreak for just like for just a day will cause a lot of harm and a lot of loss to a country. So we are really happy to have you, sir. So in preparation for questions that might come from the audience, I would like to throw some questions to you, sir. So while you were talking, you made some points. So one of it was that electric vehicle has been in existence for like hundreds of years. And in Nigeria, we just approximately say maybe 10 to 20 years. That is where average Nigerian know that okay, there is an electric vehicle. He also made mention of how exposure and information is necessary. So it now came to me that okay, if that is the case, sir, so and whereby in Nigeria, or let me say in Africa, we wait for other countries to develop, to bring up some things before we can even think of okay, let's buy it from them or do small scale in Nigeria here. So, sir, the question now is how do we get this information without waiting for other countries to get there first? Because if you are trying to transit from one energy source to another and we are waiting for another country to do it first, it will be it will not make up what we want because we need them to put us through and all sort of visa. So that is my first question before I take question from the audience. Thank you, sir.
Okay, quickly, I can see Umar Farouk hand up, but let me quickly take this. I mean, you see, we are very smart. I can tell you, even within Unilag, within Nigeria, we have smart people. I can tell you a lot of technology developed by an Africa in Africa because we don't, as we develop this as a small scale, we abandon it, we don't follow them up. Let's look at, historically, we have a professor of Unilag that have Unilag vehicle, automobile. Well, what happened to that? Nobody put money on it. Nobody want to support him. And that idea died. Now, for those of you in mechanical or in engineering in general at Unilag or any university in Nigeria, every year we say our students should construct develop, construct, design, construct, and they produce a lot of different machines. What happens? Those machines just there. In fact, sometimes we do a technology fair where some of these firms will come and look at your technology. In 2 years' time, they go back and produce and they are selling in Nigeria. Because, so not that we are not smart, we are smart. So we just need to, most schools now, what I've seen now is that they are trying to look at this entrepreneurship, innovation, copyright as part of the development. So that at least when you know you have developed some item that can produce, that can use intellectual properties, you don't just throw it outside. You have to go to either you have to register your patent and you start making money. So, but in most cases, we don't do that. And remember, one of the problems in Africa, we don't document our stuff. We just say it, we don't document it. So in 20 years' time, somebody will come. Nobody know that you have that idea because it's not documented anywhere. So then somebody that came to do, oh, Sam developed it. Even though Umar have developed it 10 years ago, but because nobody knows. And two, maybe we also need, and now that is also what I see going on in most parts of Africa, at least the countries I have been to now. We are trying to make our education not just come to class and just take abstract knowledge. Can we take this knowledge to something you can relate to? Because when you understand the concept, when you know the application, then you can. So when I'm teaching you mechanical engineering, I'm teaching you forces, dynamic, static, reaction. Some people don't even know why they need those things until when to get to the field, until when they want to plan, you want to develop your solar PV, you want to develop the foundation. That is where you realize, oh, the foundation is not strong. I need to look at the soil property. Those are the things that you were taught, maybe in civil engineering. Oh, I need to look at the forces because it has to be able to withstand. So maybe we need to be teaching students to the extent to let them understand that this is not just theory, this is not abstract, these are real things. So when they know how to apply this knowledge, I can tell you we are going to do it. And when you go to most of these countries, too, I was trained in Nigeria, so at least I've acquired knowledge along the way. A lot of Nigeria are all over the world, a lot of Africa are all over the world, and they are doing fine, and they are part of some of this trend. But sometimes we are not welcome at home, or some of them are not welcome at home. Then you are based now in Nigeria, based in America. There's now sense of, oh, it's made in America. By whom? By Nigeria. So I will stop that. So, Umar, so let's take from the audience now.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So, Umar Farouk, you can go on with your question now.
All right. Good afternoon. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you, please, but let your voice.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? I want to confirm that you can hear me.
Please be audible.
All right. Okay, so I will try to speak loudly. So I would like to appreciate you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation. It was really insightful, and I thank you so much for this presentation. So, sir, I have like some reservations, and there were some points that you shared that I'm personally sentimental about, like the one that you mentioned about if pollution is going to help us grow, then we should double down on it. And it's in that light that I want to share a few of my like concerns regarding this issue and have a question that I would like to ask. You know, apart from
Okay.
our energy demand that we have in Nigeria as a growing country, developing country, we also have issues like unemployment. So I don't know why can't we as a country double down on industrialization with the way that we have rising demand for and with the way we have rising population that is expected to rise exponentially, and we have little industry activity going on because of the fear of emission and all. But when I look, I realize that there are other initiatives that is being carried out. Trying to put Nigeria is just trying to put their head in different things. I'm seeing them that are like carrying these renewable initiatives, and I see they are also doing like emission reduction initiatives, particularly the CCS technology. So I don't know why don't they like try to focus on that CCS technology, trying to find way we can capture these emissions, because I know that we have like a potential 10,700 gigatons like of storage capacity for carbon capture. We have it in our country here based on the research that was done by IFC, that's the International Finance Corporation, together with the World Bank and other agencies in Nigeria. I don't know why they cannot double down on that, try to increase the industrial activities and make use of those particular storage capacity that we have to reduce the emission, while also in trying to increase the industrial activities and also provide energy and also improving the employment opportunity for us as a nation. So I don't know why they are not really going into that route, but just trying to, they are just always, they're like just trying to explore renewable alternatives and all. So I'm really confused and I always find
Yeah.
this kind of, it doesn't
Yeah.
make
Yeah. So thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, you see, let me take you back. When we talk about, people will talk about climate finance, and sometimes when you look at this climate finance, what does it really do? It doesn't help Africa, I can tell you. What it means that a company in Canada can generate several tons of CO2, and Canadian government will allow them to generate that and pollute. But then, as long as they claim that they give money to somebody in Nigeria to plant trees, then that is okay. They are compliance. So now the question I ask my colleague here is, why do we, collect money to plant trees, and yet a lot of our people are jobless, and yet Canada is polluting this, and yet the economy is rich? So that's why I say sometimes we can also pollute. So why can't Nigeria pollute? And then we plant the trees, and then we balance. So so when you generate your emission, the trees will absorb the carbon dioxide. Then we become net zero. So why do we have to be the sink when other countries are polluting and Africa is the sink? But we also remain, because when you are generating or industrial complex in those developed countries and they are making money, they create a job, they create income, wait, but they only put three in Africa and they say, well, we are clapping. So that is my standard. Sometimes we don't have to, we can pollute, we plant the trees. And like you said, if we can capture the technology, but again, even in Europe today, it is expensive. Norway is one of the leading countries, this CCS, but it's so expensive. So that is why most of the industry in Europe will rather pollute and go to a country in Africa and go and plant trees. And say, well, because we are planting 20 acres of trees, is equivalent to our energy that we get, energy that we are polluting, and we call it net zero. So when you talk about net zero, is something, that started with the idea that it is not possible to stop producing carbon dioxide because most process will require production of carbon dioxide. And this also capture that you talk about, we have been capturing, when you want to make soft drink, you capture carbon dioxide, you introduce your that. So we have been capturing, but on larger scale, it's still expensive. And the same people that carry out that research in Nigeria, are they ready to put money on ground? I will say they will likely no. Because if it's economically viable, investors will be run after it. It means it's not yet economically viable. So for now, I would rather say, let Nigeria government, let Nigeria state government and other federal state, or in any other part of Africa, we can pollute, but we also plant our trees. So then we can equate it. But the idea that somebody plant the tree, and somebody produce, and they put the tree in Uniland and say, yeah, now I'm in net zero. No. I don't know, maybe I've answered your question.
Yeah, I think thank you.
Are you satisfied?
We can't hear him. Maybe his
Yeah,
network.
I am.
Okay, yes, he said yes. Moderator, can you take some questions that put in the chat box for our speaker
Okay.
to answer.
Okay, I saw this question now about this climate change. Yeah, I mean, one of the problems we have in Africa is that one, maybe we don't, I give an example of Ethiopia because, it's one of the countries that actually pushing. Is that even though we want to, develop our energy resource, we want to transition, we want to use more electricity. Sometimes, like you said, can we do without European? It is possible. But the question is, our political leaders ready to do it with that? Country like China, and that is why West have problem with China. It's not because China have done anything to them. India is the same thing, because they were able to stand up to them. This is our country. This is what we want to do. Don't force us. But because we still depend on IMF, which is owned by basically Europe, World Bank, which is basically owned by America. Since we still depend on them for finance of anything that we want to do, then we find ourselves in their midst. But if we're able, again, I mentioned Ethiopia before that, Ethiopia, when Europe, IMF, and all of them refused to give them money to develop their hydropower plant, 5,000 megawatt, they went ahead, they raised the money, and they do the job. But sometimes the system we build, we don't want to offend American, we don't want to offend US, we don't want to offend this, because some of our political leaders are benefiting from them. But the whole country might be suffering, but unfortunately, they don't look at that. So that is one of the things. We can do it, we can decide that this is what we want to do. And again, when you look at most of our policies, I will give you some in Uganda. The energy policy in Uganda was basically written by German, because that is what they want. So when you have the policy that cannot be implemented, it's not used for the people on ground. But now you say this is policy that, so, but this is what your policy says. But how many Ugandans sat it down and draft this policy? And when they are not driving directly, they collect money. They sponsor money, they give money for people to drive the policy. So then what kind of policy you want to drive when you cannot sit down as a country and develop your document and follow it up? So until when we're able to stand, and that is our length, are we able to stand? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves. Then somebody talk about, I can see one hand up, that somebody talk about energy means a sustainable way. Please elucidate, can energy creation mitigate by immigration? Well, the answer is yes or no. You have to know, why are people moving? People are moving to look for better lives. If in rural area or in urban area, businesses are going there, people are, you create jobs. Why do you have to move? So people move because of better life. They will tell you that, well, if you want to make it in Nigeria, you have to go to Lagos. Everybody rush to Lagos, but not everybody make it in Lagos. But if almost all the major cities in Nigeria have industry because of availability of energy, like I mentioned to you, a lot of small scale businesses are dying because there is they cannot afford to buy diesel and power their operation. So, and they end up closed down, and then they become jobless. So if there's a way we can do it, and that's why I brought the issue of community energy development, can we come together as a family, as a community? That is also happening in some part of Lagos, where you see some area, they put their money together, they have their own power systems. Maybe that could also help, but if we are running away because of better life and the industries is not there, no job is there, you only have farm. And when you have farm, then you have processing where you can process some of this raw material, your farm, your cassava, your maize to some level. If there's no opportunity, you only harvest and send it. then people will be running away. It can mitigate if we can translate this energy to create jobs locally. I can see Olukunle Kolawole hands up.
I think you just addressed his question.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, the speaker and the people that have put together this platform. It's a great, fantastic one. Basically, the lecturer has done very good justice to this. I can't wonder less. Being a lecturer, being somebody that is well traveled, he's spoken about the transition, which was excellent. He's spoken about happenings around the world. Norway, a country I always love to hear about. He's also spoken the message, apart from what I posted, the message here is actually to the smart team. And I noticed that he mentioned some barriers which always come up in all the lectures or webinars that we've had. These barriers, I would suggest, especially to our erudite professor, Professor Gedingbe, and the other researchers, to please take all these barriers. Some of these barriers are not founded. Some of them are. Some of them have been resolved. But because we are not looking at it, for example, I mentioned the last time I spoke in this forum that some policies have been attenuated, have been approved, are in place. Financial law that are helping this energy thing. I don't have the capacity to really do a whole lot of this because of my other callings. The researchers can help us look at it. For every speaker that bring about barriers, things that we need to overcome to be able to get to our destination. I think maybe part of the group, maybe there should be a committee looking at it, giving us updates on it, so that while speakers, it can be it can be a bank that we can get to. For example, I know I lived some time ago for about 1 year in Netherlands, and there's some financial framework, and I'm talking about 30 something years ago. And already, by the time I read what we have in Nigeria now, that was put to law in April this year, they've started implementing it. So that means if we work with these barriers, then we have something to take to the policymakers, and we have something to make noise about, and we can have communicate. Part of our communicate at our conference, our yearly conference or other media conferences, we can actually be making noise about it. So it won't be like, okay, the people in the academia are just there, we don't know what they are doing, so that we don't know the next Abacha we are going to have, or the next this guy that came to Senate, that was Senate president for many years, the kind of rubbish is they are saying that a sergeant is more educated than a PhD holder. So I want us to a committee to be looking at whatever that we call barrier and confirm what is the latest information. Actually, that is a major reason why I raised my hand to really talk about. So that's my point. Thank you very much, the lecturer.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And
it's
also,
a good
bottom
comment
line
that
about
you
energy that we should take home. Energy is about economy.
Yeah, I agree with
So
you.
economics is a major thing about. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mentioned at the beginning that I'm working at Makerere University Business School. One of the things that we try to do, it was a collaboration between my other university in Norway and this university. We established a program, a master program in energy, economics, and governance. So basically, we are talking about energy, economics, and policy. So that at least when you are doing research, we want to see the policy part of your output. It's not just telling us you plot your graph, you tell your story, efficiency is there, and blah, blah. No, what are the policy issues? If a politician is sitting in your midst, or NGO is sitting in your midst, listening to your results, what are they taking away? They can go and talk to their colleagues. So that's something we need to do. I agree with you, my brother. We need to go beyond that level of doing research. And I mean, like you said, research to reality. So how can we get to reality? We are not politicians, but we need to, when we are communicating our finding, we need to look at if somebody say, now thank you for this presentation. If the Minister of Science and Technology asks you to implement this idea, can you implement it? What can you do? That is good. And two, even within Nigeria, to maybe I also encourage my colleagues here to let attend conferences locally, especially or some of those conferences that are being advertised. There's one conference that is coming Energy Nigeria is a very big conference. Though I've been invited, but I never attend. But it's a very big conference where you see a lot of politicians attending. Sometimes we need to attend that kind of gathering to help us. Unfortunately, some of them could be free or some of them will also be expensive. Because if we don't share it, nobody will know that what we are doing. They just, okay. And unfortunately, not only related to smart or to engineering, most of us academics, sometimes we are unnecessarily arrogant. We don't want to talk. We said the government doesn't relate to us, but do you also relate to them? You don't talk to them and they don't talk to you. So, and when you talk to them, you speak a lot of English that they just guess they will be sleeping because instead of, we talk about simulation, calculation, and Lagrangian, and so what? They don't understand that. They understand if I put 1 + 1 equal to 2. That is what they want to hear. But when you are talking about integration by parts, what is the story? So they get lost. So sometimes we need to find a way to speak our language in a way that they will understand. And I'm sure, not all our politicians are bad. We still have good politicians. But sometimes we, the academics, we run away from them. We don't interact, and we want them to implement our idea when we don't even know. Another question I will throw to my colleagues here is, before we do research, what are the government policies? Do we know Nigeria policy on energy transition? Do we know Nigeria policy on renewable energy? Do you know, like my friend said, do you know anything about CCS? Look at the national, so that when you are doing research, and you are talking to them based on their document, they will listen to us too. But if the government is going left and you are going right and you are not meeting yourself, then it becomes more challenging. So I don't want to take your time. Please let me return you back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Daramola. I want to appreciate you once again. I believe the moderator has done justice to that, but in line with the questions or the submission from Engineer Kolawole, I appreciate the response you have given, to that. But I want to say that more than just what you have mentioned, what is SMART doing? I wanted to ask some of these questions, in fact, particularly, as you put up the challenge about jet and set not maybe possible, in the context of Africa, because of all these challenges that were put together. And I think that probably motivated what Engineer Kolawole has put forward. And my take is that we researchers, and even not just researchers alone, including himself as entrepreneurs now, the categories, we call it subnationals, not just, I don't know whether we should use the word subnational, because subnational, you might want to say, oh, not federal government, local government, and then, state government. But I'm talking about at macro level, macro engagement, as researchers, research groups, and what we are doing here now, SMART platform, what are the responsibilities that we take? And I know that you have actually addressed that in terms of ensuring that our research, output, really communicates to the policymakers. I want to say that we started that last year because we have a white paper that came out of the few people that attended SMART last year. And then we have that document. It was published, part of the conference proceedings. And that when we started this webinar, one of the speakers, who is also part of the committee, and I want to let the audience know that Professor Daramola also has joined the committee of SMART. We have the committee, like we call it. What do you call it now? Governing the editorial members board. One of the speakers, I think last 2 weeks, Dr. Zama is also one of the editorial members of SMART. We discussed, if those of you that are around, we discussed about engaging beyond just producing a white paper. Now, actually submitting it, making sure that it goes to the policymakers, and you have profiled some, suggestions about going for other conferences, and then but beyond that, sometimes when you just speak at events and then you hand something, sometimes they just like paper is just there. You have to really pursue it, and that's part of what you've mentioned. They are not speaking to you, and you are also not speaking to them because you say you're arrogant. Sometimes the professors are not arrogant, but they just like they feel that somebody is not giving them the attention for them to express themselves, not knowing we have to have a different way of really bringing that engagement along and be persistent and not giving up to all the discouragement that comes with it. So what are we doing this very year? All the challenges that are being raised by our speakers, like I told Dr. Zama 2 weeks ago, that I'm going to come after him. We're going to plan what we will do in these very SMART this year together. And the same thing, all the people that have spoken, and even including Professor Daramola today, we will actually bring all this together so that this year's, SMART, there will be that panel and discussions and how to really bring people from the industry and people from the government, and then as many as people that are effort to get them together, we actually bring, and that whatever we come out of it, we will not just publish it in the conference proceeding this year. We want to see that it's communicated and is followed up to some panel, and we can leave it there and let's see exactly what comes out after that. So these are all the things that I believe we will do, and that the most important thing is just for us to know, just as the challenge that we put forward, we should see ourselves doing something, not just talk about government is not doing this. Some of the policies, some of the things that the governments are doing, they are all like distributed there, but we need researchers, we need people like you and I to really bring it down to the level of the common end users, and then they will put it in their hand. Otherwise, the thing will just be flying here and there, and nobody is actually using it, and then we will be blaming the government, this, government that, government this, government that. So that is what SMART is focused on, and with every one of us together engaged, I believe we will get there. I hope I've been able to address, put something forward to what Engineer Kolawole has brought forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to something like to be fair, sometimes we in science too, we are not politicians, we are not lobbyists. Sometimes it's difficult, like you said, But then, can we get some of the people, some NGOs, they know how to lobby government? If you have some NGO that have the same mind with what we are doing, can we also, talk to them? We are doing something like this. We know that if you talk to state government, they can listen to you. Those NGOs, they are ready to help because they also have the resources, which you might not have to run after government, but they have the resources. Or maybe at a local level, local government level, some of them you might have some friends, some former classmates, some colleagues, they are different positions. Hey, can we sit down? let's just have a tea. This is what we have been doing. Can you try this? Sometimes we might need to leverage on other connection we have. Because if you know a commissioner and you as Professor Gegregbena, you work with commissioner office, that is your friend. He will listen to you better than if you send somebody that you don't know. So maybe we also need to leverage some of this little connection, especially the NGOs. They are one of the most powerful pressure group in anywhere because they don't really care much and they get funding, which you are not going to get. They can book appointment with the minister, which you might not be able to get because you might not have the phone number is not available, but they have those linkage. And then they listen to them, they know. So maybe we also need to leverage on some of those other groups so that because you cannot, no group can do it alone.
Okay. Thank you very much. And our moderator, I think we should bring this conference to a close. Before I allow you to do that, I want to once again appreciate Professor Sam Adaramola for the wonderful discussion on energy transition, opportunities and challenges. And I want to let everyone know that he has promised to physically be on ground for SMART this year. so I'm putting that promise to the whole world now, so that they stamp it, and then and ensures that this year is not going to be virtual, but actually physical.
Let's hope so.
Okay, thank you very much. So, and as usual, I want to say next week, our webinar also. In fact, I'm presently just trying to juggle between someone from South Alabama and another energy expert from Brazil. So the one from Brazil is the one I'm leaning to, but before the end of the day, I will get fully. I've already spoken with him and he's open, but he wants to check his schedule and then get back to me. So I want to say that that is what we'll be announcing, over the weekend. Exactly the topic, for our presentation next week. So all the same, it's still going to be on from research to reality. So I just want to encourage everyone, including those that have not heard about SMART, let's keep the noise allowed, and let's come prepared next week with all our questions. And that I know that the time we are having the meetings fall within the work hours of some people, and that's the reason why the YouTube channel is there. They can always catch up with whatever it is that that is missed. So thank you very much, everyone, and over to you back, the moderator, to round up.
Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Ogedebe, for giving us that wonderful remark, and for Professor Sam. So Muyiwa, we really thank you for coming, and we appreciate your presence. And as Doctor said, we are looking forward to seeing you physically during our SMART conference. We are much looking forward to seeing you, sir. And for all our audience, we really thank you, and we appreciate your presence, and we hope to see you during our next webinar. It has been insightful so far and inspiring and educating, and we promise you to always give you the best. So thank you so much. I wish you a very nice rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.